Hi, I'm Julie Bishop, and thank you for tuning in to the second episode of the IT Naturally podcast, where we talk to leaders and experts about IT and how IT can be a force for good. And today, I'm joined by Fergus Boyd, who's had an amazing career, but more of that later. Fergus, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you and good morning.
So today, we're going to be talking about a range of topics, including the positive ways that IT has impacted Fergus's life and his career to date, how Fergus thinks IT will evolve and shape the world, and what excites him most about the future, and the advice Fergus would be giving to anyone starting a career in IT today. But first, I'm going to give you a quick summary of Fergus's career. Fergus has had a varied career. He's been in the top 100 of the CIO 100 awards 3 times, and he's worked for several blue chip and innovative brands, including British Airways, Virgin Atlantic, Yotel Hotels, Village Hotels, and Soho House Membership Group. He's achieved numerous awards in IT, website design, digital marketing, and mobile apps for some of these brands. And now Fergus focuses on his passions. He's a trustee or a NED or investor in several charities and startup companies, such as the Royal Institution, Linnean Society, and Happiness Index. He also runs his own hospitality consultancy, specialising in business transformation, digital transformation, and technology stack reviews. So quite a busy person, Fergus, quite a busy person. So I'm going to start with what I hope is a simple question. How has working in IT had a positive influence on your life and your own personal development?
It's a big question. For me, I'm kind of mushed together IT and digital, so you hear a lot of kind of both in my responses. For me, IT and digital are all about creative problem solving. So I'd say IT and curiosity are kind of key life skills. My dad and my uncle were ex-military, and they liked engineering and mucking about with things. And I remember my dad bought me a bag of bits, electrical bits like batteries, wires, switches, a little lamp. I was about 10. And that kind of got me into electronics. And that was kind of also about the time when personal computing was kicking off. Actually, slightly before Sinclair. You couldn't even get that then. So I built my own PC from a kit. It was called the UK 101, built based on an American thing called Ohio Superboard. And I taught myself BASIC, a very nice low-level, mid-level language, with great foray into programming. But during a very wet Northern Irish summer where I grew up, there were a lot of wet summers there, I taught myself 6502 microprocess assembly language from the good old book by Rodney Zacks, which I think is still on the market. And because the PC was just too slow to do anything realish time, so I wrote a Space Invader game and then tried to sell it. I'd actually compiled it to 2 kilobytes of memory. Didn't get anywhere with selling it, unfortunately, because the world of the Sinclair Spectrums had kicked off, so my PC was suddenly old hat. But I went to uni, did electronic engineering. They taught me Fortran 77, so the grown-up version of BASIC, which is a great introduction to scientific programming. And that led to a job in the forerunner of National Power, National Gen, where I wrote training simulators for nuclear and traditional power stations, even more Fortran 77, and a lot of scientific programming. And from there, that led to a role in British Airways, where I guess we met, Julie. I actually applied for their flight simulator department because that was, I thought, a nice kind of corollary to the nuclear power training simulators I was working on. I didn't get that role, thankfully, because they then sold the whole division to Rediffusion. I got a junior role in IT for engineering, and then wrote airworthiness programs, if you remember that department, to support aircraft maintenance back in the day, when British Airways wrote everything itself, all its own IT programs, and we maintained all its own aircraft. I think back in my day, British Airways had 2,000 IT staff, which is incredible these days, probably about 2 these days. Then it moved up kind of the food chain into team leading, business analysis, project management, BI, business intelligence, and BA was very ahead of the game with a big Teradata environment. And then .com kicked off, and finished my career in a little department called IT Light, lots of innovative technology like internet on board aircraft, very good in-flight entertainment, Wi-Fi, and or VIP lounges, which we actually charged for back then. And then kind of jumped over to Little Red, so Virgin Atlantic, and did the same pretty much for a tenth the budget. And then got a tap on the shoulder from some key people in hospitality. So I went to the dark side and joined Yotel and various things. And so IT and digital have been, I'd say, the bedrock of my career, with a few extra forays into hospitality revenue management and asset management, also very interesting areas. So I hope that helps.
Thank you. A lot of different things you've done over the years. And in what ways have you seen IT benefit the careers and personal growth of your colleagues over the years?
I still keep in touch with pretty much all of them. I've seen many colleagues do well in IT. Most of them came into junior positions like me, like IT support or business analysis or running projects or team leading. And pretty much all of them now are department heads, CTO, someone kind of more the tech side like me. Some are pure IT directors, CIOs, CISOs even, lots of others, titles beginning with C. I'm also, both in British Airways and Virgin, I looked after a group called IT Light. I think I created it in both of them, which I would say is really a bona fide shadow IT type thing. We had guardrails, I call them suitability filters, so we could design things that didn't write back to production systems, didn't touch credit cards and the PCI involvement, etc. But still incredibly useful. The Virgin one was probably about 10 times the size of the BA one. We were processing about 300 projects a year. To give you an idea, they were petite, but they were very useful. And some colleagues in Tesco kind of copied us, and they set up Tesco Labs. I think Lego did the same, Lego Labs. So the kind of productionized shadow IT is for me still fine. A lot of my colleagues are still running those innovation groups. I think all of the people I've been involved with, they've been using good basic IT practices like structured thinking, systems concepts, testing, IT testing, requirements gathering, which is fundamental. And a thing called P3IT, which I think we coined in British Airways. Proposition, process, people, then IT, kind of in that order, and IT only at the end. I've seen a lot of people recently moving into, like myself, I suppose, fractional or portfolio roles, CIO, CTO roles, where they do a 3 months or 6 months stint. So it's not quite, and they can do them in parallel. It's not quite contract work. It's like working on behalf of agencies. I'm working for 2 at the moment doing fractional CTO roles for multiple clients. I think that's a very good career path. And as you said in my intro, I'm a judge on the CIO 100 Awards, which actually is live at the moment. So I recommend people go hunt it out. IDG are running it. And I get to see a lot of CVs, especially the ones I like best are the people doing a lot with limited budgets, and a lot of people moving between companies and growing their skills along the way. So IT really gives people a good step up.
Yeah, I certainly really enjoyed having a career in IT. It's been brilliant. Less on the people side, on the business side, how have you witnessed IT unlock growth and new opportunities for businesses and organisations?
Again, very lucky to be in BA at the time, because BA was a city in terms of its scale. But it got the .com bug very early. It was part of a tiny informal team in the mid-90s, just after the first browsers appeared. And BA kind of went through a great, I think every 2 years, 18 months, a great new website. But BA kind of saw that people wanted to transact personally rather than use call centers. So BA closed down a huge number of call centers very quickly in Belfast, Cardiff, Edinburgh, Manchester, etc. Some of the people were moved internally, but really the passenger experience was improved. And I remember I was there in BA.com in 2000, which had actually got quite a difficult time for British Airways in terms of revenue. It was making £30 million per year, which then was 0.3% of company turnover. When I left around 2000, later, BA.com, I think in 2010, it was turning over £2 billion, which was 30% of the entire company turnover. So BA kind of saw the market and went into it big time. I created and led the mobile channel in BA, and back then it was definitely pre-production. It was ropey. It was back in the days of WAP. We were first to market with this WAP, wireless application protocol, and we squeezed into little 1-inch square Nokia or Samsung Ericsson phones, flight information, check-in, boarding cards. The iPhone came along, thank goodness, in 2007, and everything got much easier. So I think, for me, the .com thing really moved the cards on the table. But I'd say now digital transformation is over. If you haven't done it, then shame on you. Everyone should have done it by now. Really, for me, now it's all about business transformation.
And I remember, Fergus, at the time going past the Apple shop in Kingston, where I live, and when they were looking at the apps, they had the BA app as one of the new apps, one of the few on the thing, which was quite exciting.
Apple really liked us because we were first to market. So I think we were preferred by the App Store for airline apps for about 2 weeks, and then suddenly Lufthansa took over.
And what are some of the broader societal benefits that you've witnessed from the adoption of technology? How has it changed the world?
I guess pretty obviously global comms, digital inclusion, which I know you're coming to as well. E-commerce, huge for me. E-service, e-commerce. Cost reduction, speed to market, and improved customer service, giving people a choice, basically. I would say, though, that everything digital builds on other digital things. And there was a lot of hype about 2 years ago about ChatGPT, hitting X million users in a few days, etc. But that was only because all the infrastructure was there. Broadband, apps, the whole concept of apps, mobile, Wi-Fi, APIs. So really, it was just standing on the shoulders of huge giants before them. I would say that IT kind of has brought back in a focus on the scientific method. Back to my Royal Institution concept, where you create a hypothesis, you test it, you learn, and you iterate. And if you get it wrong, then you iterate, start pivot. And I'd say the creative challenging, the fact checking is a key piece of learning the industry. STEM plus STEAM, so the extra A's is arts, scientific, technology, engineering, arts, and maths. So I think it doesn't give anywhere to hide. If the facts are out there, you have to kind of proceed.
Thank you. And as you said, I want to look at how can we make sure as organisations that technology solutions are accessible, that they're inclusive, and they benefit all the different parts of society.
Again, you know, we're lucky. I think airlines in my world of hospitality at the moment, by nature, they're diverse because especially in airlines, we have diverse passengers. We fly to diverse locations, diverse staff, guests. So I think I've been immersed in geographically and culturally diverse companies for most of my career, which has been a big bonus. And I would say inclusive teams build inclusive tech. And you can see some very bad examples of that at the moment in the US. And also I'd say ethics by design, not by afterthought, is kind of a key piece. Test and learn, which also seems to have been forgotten. A lot of stuff is just thrown out there and then people think it'll take off, but the reality is do some user testing. I'm a huge believer in user feedback and user experience testing labs. I don't think we use them in BA that I remember, but I certainly did in Virgin Atlantic and Yotel. Before we released a new website or mobile app, we'd always have people behind one-way, two-way mirrors, etc. And that really gives you a view, because if suddenly the customers are saying, I've no idea what to do on this page, what do I do next? And you spent a small fortune designing it, you realize, okay, this is not going to work. Time to go back to the drawing board. When the voice of the customer, doesn't quite agree with your thinking, it's time to rethink.
No, definitely. So looking forward, Fergus, What do you think will be the biggest ways that IT transforms our lives and our workplaces in the next few years? What's really exciting you about the future?
It's an old trite expression, but I think we're still standing on the shoulders of giants. I most remember the IET, the Engineering Institute, and they really celebrate engineers of the past and current engineers who are doing amazing things, and most of them you've never heard of because they're quietly doing good things in the background. Tech builds on tech. I'd say the future is platforms and ecosystems over discrete standalones. Things have to connect and share data, etc. I'd also say some transformations seem to come along by accident, like the ChatGPT version 3.5, but there was a version 1 which no one cared about. There was a version 2 which no one cared about. They were just purely research pieces. So sometimes it's better not to plan, just be ready to pivot quickly when something bright and new comes along. And also kind of with the engineer in me, but most improvements are the result of a long, hard slog. For instance, the light bulb, there were thousands of iterations. Faraday's electromagnetic induction, the original coils are in the museum in the Royal Institution, and there are about 6 or 7 or 8 of them. He went through a lot of tech in his time. Davy's safety lamp, the one that detected methane down mines, he didn't get it right first time. He's got 20, 30 versions that did not work before he came along with the gauze concept. White light LED, that's the engineers working on that have been working on it for 15 years, and they ended up making blue with a phosphorus coating, and that makes the white light. The guy got a Nobel Prize for it. So I'd say no shortcuts, work hard, test and learn. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I'm not a big fan of the overhyped GenAI. I think LLMs are amazing, based on the transformer model, which came from Google 2017 from their language translations team. But they're still huge. They are just huge next best word algorithms. There's no inherent intelligence. They have no idea about up, down, left, right, north, south. It's all about their training data. And I think, as in the press at the moment, there's no such thing as a best number LLM. They fail with basic logic and maths. And agentic AI is the current hype on top of hype. I think the future will be back to where we were in British Airways. We dabbled with symbolic AI, capturing Concord engineers' knowledge into huge decision trees, because they were retiring quickly, and the parts still need to be replaced. Symbolic AI is a good grasp of the physics of the real world, and that's pretty hard. And it will not come through scaling of GPUs or large language models. I think the future tech enhancements in that area might come from medical advances and brain research, etc. So I read a lot about the neuro symbolic AI is kind of where I think it's going.
Be good to see 5 years' time where it's got to.
Mm-hmm.
We'll find out if you're right. I know this is one of your key passions, but how do you encourage young talent to see IT not just as a career opportunity, but a platform for social impact?
I'd say it's back to STEM, so STEM, STEAM, the scientific, technology, engineering, maths, rather than just IT. So IT is part of that. That's the biggest social impact. I am a trustee and patron of RI, and they're very good at science communications. They get top speakers, people you'd know and people you'd never heard of. You're also incredibly good. £17 a pop for a live session. I'm non-exec for a few startups. Actually, the better ones are female-led. So Women in Tech and Libby, Love It, Buy It. And I support a little group called Hot Topic. They run a group called Tech Girls, which is even younger people, so up to the age of about 14, getting them into science and technology. Where I can, if I get invited by colleagues, I go along to EHL, so the Lausanne Hospitality School in Guillaume, the equivalent, which is also in Switzerland and UK. A lot of the MBAs that come out of those hospitality colleges don't become GMs. They actually set up their own businesses, and a lot of those are tech businesses because they
Okay.
can see a lot of what's wrong with current hospitality tech, and they think I can do better, and they do. And I'd say today, compared to when we were growing up, there's a lot of free research out there. YouTube, maths, physics videos, 3 blue, 1 brown is incredible. The visual animations these people can do are astonishing. Mythology is great. And of course, the RI channel itself, it's got tens of millions of views every year. And they're all free, amazing free resources. So I think if you're entering IT today, you can just kind of view what is being done and pick and choose very easily.
Yeah, you've got no excuse for not keeping up to date, have you? It's just so easy. And I don't know about you, but sometimes when I've been in a meeting and I've heard a term and I thought, crikey, I don't know what that is, write it down, YouTube it later, and you go, oh, now I'm an expert in whatever it
Exactly,
is.
something like instant experts, yeah.
There'll be some American professor telling you all about it. So what technological development you've witnessed in your career do you feel has had the most profound effect on society?
Yeah, again, I guess back to my early career with PCs. So I say PCs, even their early variants and programming by and for the masses. I'm still, I went to, my wife and I went to Cambridge second last Christmas and kind of walked around. I was amazed there wasn't a blue plaque trail. Here lived Sir Clive Sinclair, except here the ARM computer was born. Here the
Yeah.
blah blah blah. But there's so much incredible stuff over there. But PCs in all their shapes and forms, cellular data, mobile data, which started off as voice and then data, internet obviously, and the original. I've been over to CERN, and Tim Berners-Lee, his original PhD thesis is still in a protected glass cabinet, and I think it was 79. And then he came, and then the browsers started to appear. Sorry, 89. Then the browsers started appearing in about 93, 94. And then more basic things, because back in our day in BA, people had to use modems, and you're lucky if you got 28K. Then BT, they kind of invented with others, invented ADSL, so proper dial-up. I was really, back in my day, because I looked after mobile for BA, I got very close to the mobile vendors. So the Palm Pilot is still my kind of favorite early device, incredibly powerful for its size. And then the connectivity tech came along, like USBs. We totally ignore them at the moment, but before that, you had to set different conditions in your PC to have things connecting. Social media came along. Unfortunately, it's probably generally had a negative impact on balance. Basic things like lithium batteries, APIs, Wi-Fi. Still a big fan of the Raspberry Pi, also from Cambridge. And it and others led to RISC computing, so just instruction set computing. And then, of course, other basic things like software as a service licensing. But my favorite tech of all time, I think that really made people literally stand up and look up, would be the Concorde, which was still alive and well in our era. But I think we've seen the last of that, unfortunately.
And it's still on my shelf above me.
There you go.
Finished my Lego one a couple of months ago.
Mm.
We're going to speed up a bit, Fergus,
Okay.
if that's okay. So I'm going to ask you to give me one answer in a category. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So is there a memorable partnership or collaboration that stands out as the highlight of your career? I know, you've got 10.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say if it's just one, it would be British Airways and Boeing. Together, they created a concept called Connection with an X in the middle, and that was the first ever intranet on board one specially modified 747 that shuttled between Heathrow and New York. So first ever internet of 35,000 feet.
Pretty exciting. I still can't get it working every time I try. And what lessons have you personally taken away from your career in IT in terms of professional and personal growth?
I'm going to give you two, if that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
sorry, I'm not trying to be mean.
never burn bridges, but definitely avoid time wasters. And a quote that I did as part of a opening speech for a colleague in one of the BIT fairs. There's no such thing as an IT project. There are only business projects.
Yeah,
Stick that on my gravestone.
absolutely. Absolutely. And what advice would you give to somebody who's starting a career in IT today, especially in terms of trying to make that positive impact?
Certainly. Forget the frills, focus on delivery, the basics like business analysis, project management. I mean, those are the core skills that will take you through everything. And follow the money, understand business cases, follow the money.
Yeah, exactly. The amount of time we've spent on things that were never going to get approved, incredibly frustrating. And just to lighten it up, what's the strangest or the funniest thing that's happened to you in your career in IT up to date?
Okay. If you do a Google search for me and Princess Kate Middleton, then apparently we were friends and roomies at St Andrews University, where she met Prince William. That was around the royal, just before the royal wedding in 2011. I was working for Virgin Atlantic at the time, and a researcher from Piers Morgan's Daily Mirror group contacted me via Facebook initially, then LinkedIn. Somehow find my mobile number as well, wanting to bring me on to do an interview. I strung him, clearly a very bad researcher, but I strung him along for about a week and then declined. But yeah, do a Google search. I'm still out there, apparently, according to Google.
Cool. But not actually true, which is so unusual. So maybe we'll find you on ChatGPT and put it in.
Indeed.
Thank you so much for coming on to our podcast. It's been really good to hear all your thoughts. It's so interesting to hear how you've strung all the different technologies together and how they've, as you say, they've built upon each other, and nothing that we do now would work if we don't go back to the very, very early physicists and the battery manufacturers and all of that kind of stuff. It's been really, really interesting. And if people want to keep in touch with you, Fergus, what's the best way for people to find you?
I'm quite gobby and chatty on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way.
Yeah, will do. So thank you very, very much for this conversation. I really enjoyed it, and goodbye.
Thank you. Happy to help. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.